All right, so let's talk about some applications that I wrote. These are pretty old, and there's some cool ones in here, and some of them are kind of jacked up. But this is back in AOL 3, AOL 4 days. So back in the day, how you pirated software, unlike things moved to Bear Share and then the Pirate Bay, was that you were on AOL, you were on Dialup, and you wanted to send a file to someone. There was an application that somebody wrote. You could go into a special chat room, type in commands like /list, and it would send you a list of all of the software this person had, and then you could use other commands to have that software emailed to you in pieces. So you get 50 pieces of a game. They're going to be able to figure that out. So AOL eventually figured it out, blocked that. So the other way to do it was to run a web server locally on your machine so that people could reach it. And so the problem with that is AOL timed out after a little while. So to keep yourself online, you had to have an idler, or a way to idle. So we'll start off with this one. This is a program I wrote called Cannabis 2, and this was an idler. So this was literally a piece of software that just kept you online. So what would happen is you would open up, log into AOL. You basically, to keep people from sending you what would be called a punt, which is just a bunch of gibberish in a IM window that would literally freeze your AOL and blow you offline. You could click IMs off, and it would turn off the ability for someone to send you an IM. And that was a whole nother thing. People could use these things called punters to blow you off the internet. And so you could do that, and then say you wanted to use a computer for something else, but your AOL is up. You could just hit show or hide AOL, and basically that was it. So you always could put a reason why you were idling, because you had to be in a room. So most of the people went to certain rooms to idle. So you would basically click on idle, click start, and then it would basically send this to a chat room continuously every couple minutes to fake AOL into thinking that you were still online surfing the web. So this was another utility that I wrote into this. So AOL had a max number of people that could be in a room. So you would try to enter a room, and it would be maxed out. So what you could do is you could basically click say you wanted to be in a special room like idle, or idle 2, or idle 3, which those rooms eventually got banned. Visual Basic, progs, which is what they called programs, and then you had Warez, which was actually anything that you were basically pirating, and then just different rooms. So basically you would click this room, and then you hit bust in, and it would actually let you into the room, even if the room was maxed out. Now, if you got too many people in there, say there were like 50 people in a room, and you blew in because you couldn't have more than, I think, 20, maybe 21. I don't remember the exact number, but it would blow AOL up completely and kick everybody out. So you had to be really careful whenever you were busting into rooms, but I had that in there. So you basically were online only so that you could run a web server, and then it was just a list of files so people could go to that web server. It was literally a white page with links on it, and it was basically directories on your computer so that people could download files directly off your computer without having access to everything. So this is one of the things that I wrote. Goes way beyond. So this, and I'll show you the very first version. This was just added into this application so that it made it easier. So you could actually lock your screen. This was a lock screen I wrote years ago. This is well before computers had lock screens, and it was just a way that, like, if you were idle, you were allowing people to download applications, or you were downloading applications or games, you could lock your screen, and then say your brother comes up, he can't get onto the computer because the screen is locked. So as you see, the password here is NX2, case sensitive. And then if you had your room up and you were idling, you could also shoot a room link and so that would shoot that to the AOL chat, and people could go to your web server and download stuff off your computer. So that was one way to get around all that, which is pretty cool. So I actually wrote another one called HTTP idler, and let's see here, it should be in. So Conquest was the name of my web server, and so this idler basically ran in the tray, so you didn't have to have an application open; it was just hidden in the tray. But so that's what that was, and so that would allow you to basically run your web server and stay online. And eventually, you know, after like 3 or 4 days, you would get kicked anyway, because the AOL would see that you were online for a really long period of time, and they would just kick you, and then you have to dial back in, and then you just start over again. But that's how we shared software. So this was the web server I used for a long time, and this version actually was a version that I cracked. You can see there's my name next to override, unlimited license. And I used to give this away for free, which sucks because this company actually went out of business, I think, because of that. It was basically different groups of people that were sharing things. But so that's how that went. And then say you got into a fight with another group of people, you could use mail punters on AOL, which is hilarious. And I'll show you one really quick before we get to the last little thing. And then maybe I'll go through some of this other stuff later. So Bowinkle Tools was something I wrote, and basically it was a mail bomb.
Now here's something we hope you'll really like.
So this was actually a really cool tool, because you could just put in somebody's screen name, put in some subject, so you could make it look legit, you know, back in the day, as legit as you could. And then you could send one of these 3 combos to them. So you could send a combo, which was an error code and a color code, which basically flashed. Like if you did the color one, it just flashed really fast, many different colors, and it was so fast that the Windows system and AOL could not decipher it. It would literally freeze up AOL, freeze up the computer. It would actually cause your processor to freeze, so the computer would freeze. Combo was a little bit of both, so it did both mixed together, and then you had just the error code, which you could send, and it would basically send a bunch of HTML, because that's what they used back in the day, but it was loops and stuff, and it would cause the computer to do the same thing. So your processor couldn't handle it, AOL would freeze, and the computer would freeze. You'd have to restart your computer. The thing that sucked about this, though, is when you sent somebody a mail bomb, when this stuff first came out, they would have to call AOL, because as soon as they clicked on the mailbox icon for the mail, it would freeze AOL and freeze the computer. So then they'd have to call AOL and be like, somebody sent me a file that was a virus or whatever, and AOL would delete their mail, like all the mail in their mailbox, and then they could continue on. Then eventually it got to the point where you could get into the mailbox, but there would be this one email there that you couldn't do anything with, and you'd have to call them and be like, hey, this one piece of mail I need you to delete. And they could do that for you, and it would clean it up. But these were ways to punt people offline. You could also send these same combos through IMs, which were instant messages through AOL, and it would do the same thing. It would just basically freeze a computer and
Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat
and blow them offline. So that's what it said whenever you exited it. But yeah, so that was one of the applications I wrote. And these were just ways to basically stay online and pirate software, which is so hilarious. So lockout was actually an idea I had before, just to kind of keep people from being able to get into your computer or do anything on the computer while you were away, or if you were downloading stuff. So basically you could click lockout, it would come up with options. So you would put in your password. You could save your password by hitting one of these two, and then you would hit lockout, and the screen completely locks, and then you are completely locked out of the machine. You can't control alt delete. It basically disables the keyboard as far as like certain key commands to allow you not to close the screen. Also, if you rebooted the machine, it would come back to this screen because this screen was linked into the start menu. So startup basically called a application that this creates as it opens, and it would basically just reopen it. And so
Operation control terminated.
you would you could get around that by doing that. So there was like lots of little different things that we did back in the day when we were pirating software. So yeah, back in the day, that's how we pirated software pretty much, which is hilarious. All right, you guys take it easy. Peace.